Hey, you're listening to the Paramotor. Fuck.
Wow. Well, let's go with this. I like the way this
42.
is kicking off. I hope you don't edit that out.
Then we get a professional to do this intro thing.
know.
Woody, step up.
Yeah.
Check us out on Facebook. This is episode with our guest, Woody. We got Tom, Clint, Anthony, and, of course, Woody here. Let's go.
So this is super exciting. And first and foremost, thanks for joining us on the Paramotor podcast today.
Thanks for coming, Anthony. People don't know that was a dig. You didn't come last time.
I know.
Right
You
off
got
the
me.
bat.
Wait, just to elaborate, because I gotta come up with an excuse, which was that it was raining like crazy in Aviator PPG's tin building. Give me another excuse.
That was a pretty good one.
Tom,
How does this all tie into someone else's
you're a meteorologist.
Oh.
Storm cells can develop so big that it cuts off all cell phone service, right?
That's possible.
That's probably what happened, Woody.
Well, we appreciate you giving Anthony a second chance because
Too
he doesn't
late to
deserve it.
apologize.
Hey, I saw the cover photo of Kyle O'Glee, and he was sexy as fire. So I'm going to need you to Photoshop something up for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give an
I
old
was already
man a
planning on it.
hand.
Hell yeah. No, I definitely plan on creating. It's always a lot of fun. It's easier when it's in person, but just send me your most risque photo and I'll put the Paramotor podcast touch to it.
I think you already have my nudes. Just do
Oh,
what
that's
you need
true.
to.
Hey, the database, it goes pretty deep. I guess
That's
I
how
have
you
a lot
got
to choose
back
from.
in his good graces. You're like, all right, here's some nudes.
Yeah, that's why I was forced to come on.
Oh,
Yeah, you're being blackmailed on.
I don't want to be cut off
Please
from the
stop
nudies.
sending them
Mitch is not here. Where is he actually?
Mitch is on vacation.
Okay.
at the big house.
At the big house?
Yeah.
He's been mysteriously missing for a while now. I hope the big house means prison. If not, we'll just refer to it as the big
hope it
house
means
and
prison?
let people's
It
minds
is.
wander.
It is prison.
What? No, he is. Mitchell's in prison.
For bad behavior?
I think he was dealing drugs, like muling drugs with
Straight over
his
the border.
paramotor.
Yeah.
This
And-
doesn't sound true.
No, it's.
Yeah.
I'm
it happened.
pretty certain this is exactly what happened with Mitchell. Anyways, it was a rough experience finding out that Mitchell really was. But I think he's supposed to get out approximately in 9 months or something.
I heard he took his one call to call the Paramotor podcast.
Yeah.
Asking for help, but
Oh, this is getting less and less believable. I think I'm more gullible than most, but I'm not buying this. I have a friend who actually went to, I guess, jail. It's different than prison. But he was like a YouTube celebrity, so he had to cover it up. And he told everyone that he found a really cool job on an oil rig, and he would be kind of out of pocket and away from everything for a little while. I never bought it because he weighs almost 400 pounds. I'm like, are you telling me that you're get out of here?
Oh,
There's no
horse
way.
shit.
Yeah, it's total horse shit. And then 30 days later, he's like, it didn't really work out. I'm back to the YouTube thing. It's like, then fuck you. DUI is what happened.
You are very, 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 very well known in the paramotor community, obviously.
The third most or fifth most.
No,
Something
I'd
like
say
that.
second. With Tucker, Woody, Kyle.
You know, I've sometimes wondered where the stack ranking. So Tucker's first, right? And then there's a bunch of guys kind of hovering around second. I think I'm one of them. Dell's one of them. Kurt's one of them. Kyle's one of them. Second place gets crowded.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but no one likes half those guys.
Yeah, second place is the first loser,
Here I
so
am.
I wouldn't be proud to be. You came originally from the video game scene. That's where you had developed this Minecraft.
I guess I'll tell this story. My coworker's wife had an online affair, which changed my life as much as his. That was how it all kicked off. She didn't meet these guys, but she was sending topless photos of herself, and he'd walk in the bedroom and she'd close the laptop and just look suspicious. The TV's not on, the laptop's closed. He's like, what the flip? So, so anyway, he needed to sort of get his head on straight, and he moved in with my family and brought his Xbox.
Nice.
And that kicked off a series of events that led to me getting into video games, and then I wanted to win more, so I wanted to make these guys online would make videos, and I was like, man, if I could play with them, I'd win all night. That was my original goal. So trying to tell this story and fast forward. I left nice comments on their videos. I didn't get noticed. Thousands of people did that. I decided I need to be their peer. I made my own videos. They got like really popular. And I made Call of Duty videos, and then YouTube started monetizing them, and then that went really well. And then
were you actually good at this point when you started recording your own video gameplay, or was it the
good.
commentary?
I was like above average, but not as good as my YouTube peers. Right, those guys are often great, and over time I got like more and more above average. But I was never the guy who really crushed it at the game. I think commentary was stronger than gameplay for me.
Because we should do a 1v1. And then just throw that in.
Me, shipment. I feel like Call of Duty or YouTube popularity, there's a bell curve to it, right? People have probably heard me talk about this. And I could feel that I was on the second half of the bell curve, right? It's not that everything was gone. It was just like, well, I'm not growing like I used to be and such. And I could either just live in denial about it or do something. And that's when the Minecraft thing came along. And I used my YouTube channel as a platform to advertise my Minecraft server, and then that became like it was one of the most popular servers in the world.
Right.
And I did that for a while. Really hard work. Like I would work 20 hours a day, 5 days in a row, stuff like that. And not physical work, but always edit. So that occupied my life for a while. And then when that finished up, I was just like, you know what? Like I don't know. The money thing is pretty good. Like I'm fine that way. I choose to buy my time, and that's where I am right now. Just
that's awesome.
Doing what I want.
I really, really admire the ability for you to work for yourself or to set your own schedule. And I know it wasn't always like that for you, right?
Oh yeah.
What's the timeline in that you started the gaming and then when did you start PPG, PG, all that?
Yeah. So I started the YouTube channel I think in 2009. And I didn't start flying until 2016. So sometimes people think I flew more than I really did.
Well, I think you just work it.
I fly frequently, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just started in 2016.
I watched the video of you, and I think
my daughter probably.
Yeah, your daughter was there.
She spent the summer as my intern.
Right. And you were very candid as far as like the let's just say the progression is really showing.
So 2016 you started flying. Who did you do training with? Did you
all right.
What was the progression from there?
My first instructor was Southern Skies in North Carolina. The instructor was Marco. And so he taught me, I guess, how to get off the ground, how to launch and land, stuff like that. And then about, I don't know, it was maybe a 40 or 50 hour pilot when Aviator PPG and I synced up. And I went through their actually new pilot instruction again and plugged a lot of holes. So I love going to instruction. A lot of people proudly are untaught or self-trained.
Right.
But I'm the opposite. Like I actually keep a list and notes on all the instructors who've influenced me. There's like 15 of them now. I could look at it. But if someone's got someone to teach me, I got something to listen to.
Yeah, and eventually, so you did the training there. You Southern Skies.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine the training varies so much from place to place to place. From what I saw in the video, it seemed like a pretty chill training to go to. Like
not chill.
No?
Yeah, I he yells at me a lot. So,
but it's probably good to be so well rounded to get so many different teaching styles and so many different pointers from so many different point of views. For sure.
And sometimes they conflict. You can't listen to every one of them because they'll tell you different things. But there's always, I don't know, I like going to instruction. I learn something every time. When you're, sometimes I think about teaching wingovers, right? Wingovers is something I do thousands of them, and I think I'm better than average. But my wingover experience, like if you could view the world looking through a paper towel roll of my own experience, is so much less than like an SIV instructor who has the breadth of all of his students' foul ups to draw upon, like in his own experience, if that makes any sense. So, like, man, I want to teach people how to do things, but really, like, when I see a new pilot teach another new pilot how to launch, all they do is tell them to correct the mistakes that they themselves had made. Whereas when an instructor teaches a new pilot to launch, he's seen everything because he has this breadth of observation across so many people.
Yeah, that's true. just this last week, I kind of did some instruction, and I realized after the fact that I wasn't ahead of the curve. I was kind of behind the curve on this new student, and I was telling him, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that," instead of "Don't do that." But since you've talked on, you mentioned wing overs. That was one of the things I was going to kind of ping you on, is because you do so many of them and you do them so well.
It's all
and I'm now someone, you do them well.
Yeah, I didn't
well, yeah. I mean, no. But you've gotten that to that point, and I'm someone that's dabbling in trying to get mine bigger and bigger. And so I was like, wondering if you would give us a play by play or a move by move on just how you do them so well and how you do them safely and how you work up to making them bigger and bigger and bigger.
I'm going to skip wing overs. Who needs those?
Yeah, right. He'll go straight to.
He wants to go right to barrel rolls.
Yeah,
straight to the full stalls. Doesn't look that hard.
So I'm trying to on the progression. There's two things stuck in my head as to how to do them. One is the actual mechanics of what you pull, how you lean, and the other is the broader progression of what you do to get there. On the broader progression, the first thing I like to see a new guy do is just a round spiral, right? Not a flat spiral. Flat spiral is when your wing is parallel to the horizon. A round one is when it's kind of vertical, but you've got a wingtip on the horizon, and just hold it there. Hold it there and get comfortable with pulling a couple of G's and seeing what it takes for your wing. If you feel like your wing doesn't do it, that means you suck. It's okay. We all suck. I sucked. but do know that it's probably you and not your wing. If you can't keep your wingtip on the horizon, maybe add a little throttle. It'll probably help you. But do that. Do some spirals and just get comfortable there. When that stops feeling like anything cool, the progression is, I think, small wing overs, just, like S-turns almost, going back and forth. Then small asymmetric spirals, big asymmetric spirals, and then big wing overs. Asymmetric spiral is pretty much like a wing over, but to the same direction. And when when people start their asymmetric spirals, they're kind of just almost wingtip on the horizon and just wiggling. When you get a flat bottom, flat bottom to it, or acro pilots call it swinging through the gate, when it's almost like being on a swing set and you're going flat through the bottom and then turning the corner and coming around, then it's getting bigger. Wing overs are reversals, and that adds a couple of things. Like one, it can make them bigger, and your energy management's a little wrong. So what I would do when I first started doing wing overs is they get bigger and bigger and bigger until I wasn't good enough to deal with it. And then I'd spiral out of control. Not out of control. I'd spiral back into control.
Right.
If you exit your wing overs in a spiral because they're too big for you, that means you suck, right? Which is okay, right? We all suck, but consider that a failure. The way to exit a wing over is to sort of burn off that energy and not have a surge and do it in a half turn or so. So, yeah,
for sure. I that's where I kind of feel like I'm not big wing overs by any means, but when I go and I do it, I'm not really pushing it too hard. I feel like I'm at the point where I could almost go up over the wing, but the excuse I use for that is that the spider, it says like a 90 degree, don't exceed it. So I just kind of cling to that. I'm like, well, I can't because I'm on a spider. So
I love the spider for wing overs. And by the way, all the wing manuals say that.
They do.
Oh,
even the more advanced
manual
ones?
on the Octane, which is Ozone's first acro wing. They're like, yeah, don't do any wing overs on this thing. That's just horseshit.
Liability.
I guess. I don't know if it's liability or like lazy copy paste or what, but yeah.
Right.
It's all the manuals say that.
Oh, badass update. I have a reserve parachute now.
Oh,
so
yeah?
now I can actually go out there and that was also the other reason why I haven't tried to go beyond.
If you had showed up to the podcast you didn't show up to, I was going to give you a reserve. I have like 5 of them. There's one sitting behind me right now.
Dumbass.
And when it comes to acro, so do you believe like having with acro, I think that's where you really step up the risk for a collapse, that where you in the need to use a reserve. And so access to the reserve is for me like important. If I get into acro, I want the easiest one to get, and I think you have a lap mount, if I'm not
no.
Yeah,
2 side mounts, right?
I have 2 side mounts on my acro.
But you have a carrier, right?
I
used to.
Yeah. Well, I've got like everything, but I don't like the lap mounts. I don't. What turned me off the most is landing in the water with the lap mount. And I don't know if you guys have ever landed in the water with a front mount reserve, but a couple things happened.
Not yet.
Not yet.
El
So,
Paso.
one, it blocks your vision and your access to your leg straps. So now you're kind of screwed in that regard. You're like, how do I get to these things? How do they work? Can you do it blind? How clear is the water? Like I could barely see that it's hard to see in the first place. And now you're blocked by your reserve sitting on your lap. And then it's locked into the carabiners, which I found more difficult to remove. And I'm just like stuck in this thing. And I've never done it with a paramotor, but a free flight harness and a paramotor both sort of float at the bottom, like on your back, because you have either the gas tank or the padding. So now it's working as hard as it can to make you go face down in the water. At the same time, you're struggling with all of these clips. And then when the front mount hides the clips, I eventually took my harness off like a pair of shorts, and I didn't even get all the like lap mount and stuff removed. And it kind of made me a believer in like, you know what, like this kind of sucks. So I'm a side mount guy. That's my opinion.
When you do the SIV training, do they tell you if you're going to hit the water to prepare for that in any way, or are you just fighting until you get there?
Yeah.
Because I come from the skydiving world.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do water training to get our, I guess, D license. I don't know. It's been so long. So when we're about to hit the water, we're loosening the chest strap or taking it off completely, loosening the leg straps, like getting ready to bail out of the container. So do they tell you anything like that?
So I've
training?
landed in the water twice under a wing and once under a reserve. Under the wing, what they had me do, they're like, all right, you flare, you come in like you always do, because I wasn't making it back to land. And then you just, when you hit the water, hands up, let the wing crash in front of you, and then the cells fill with air, and it doesn't sink and cause problems as it would if it landed behind you. The other time I was doing a death spiral, which it turns out I suck at. If you don't know what that is, you've probably seen the guys like on land do a wingtip touch into a landing.
Oh yeah, that's badass.
Right.
God,
well,
I
the
want to
way
do
I
that
do
someday.
it is a wingtip touch into like a 40-mile-an-hour slam into the water.
Right, nice.
Yeah. It was so good that was water. And
that's badass.
and then, like, dude, every time I transition into water, it's like surprising. Yeah, and
What do you mean, Trent?
like so you're flying and things are quiet and things are cool, and now all of a sudden it's like loud, splashy, cold. Your like vision is at this. You're underwater and you've got all this stuff to sort of sort out. Like I'm a water guy.
You've got a huge history in swimming,
Swimming, surfing, jet skiing. Like I've just been a water guy forever.
Right.
And I thought that would make me immune somehow, is arrogance to like, oh, you know, my fingers and hands won't get tangled in all the lines because I'm such a good swimmer.
I'm a fucking
it turns out
fish.
that's not how that works.
So I'm a merman.
Like, so you're in the water, your hands are in the lines, you've got a helmet on, which is like a whole other sort of thing to deal with.
That's if you wear a helmet. For some of us, like Clint doesn't wear a helmet.
What's the point?
So anyway, no, I've never unstrapped my stuff as I'm headed into the water. Like the instructor never had me do that. But I have seen other people who like go down to one leg strap if they think there's a chance they might do a water landing. Under reserve, the instructor had us do a PLF. So even in the water,
What's a PLF?
Oh, the parachute
landing fall.
There's a bunch of listeners that are just getting into paramotoring, and they're like, "Yeah, this is so cool," and they're like, "Thanks for dummying it down." So I'll just be the asshole who's like, "What is that?"
No, that's good. I'm glad that you did that for me. Thank you.
Clint's got the Paramotor Bible right next to him. You can look that up later.
Powered paragliding Bible. Never seen it before.
So kind of what you do is you put your hands in, put your feet together, and try and land like feet, knees, hip, shoulder, like just roll into the landing and distribute that force across your whole body, as opposed to just like slamming your butt on the ground and putting it all in one spot. But even in the water, you do that.
Okay,
it makes it softer, and it's good practice in case you do it on land.
Right.
So that's under the reserve.
Yes,
obviously.
And
how many reserve rides have you
know,
had?
Clint, like you're gonna fucking do it with your glider. Like, I'm coming into land. I'm just gonna collapse when I hit
partial collapse.
What are the
dumbing it down
things about a reserve? So I was nervous about it. And I was talking to other pilots who are more experienced than me about reserve landings, and they're like, one of the big takeaways that they got, and that now I have too, is you don't really want to come down on a reserve. You hit hard. Like, I'm glad I've never taken a reserve into the ground. I hit so hard, my back hurt for days. It hurt to walk. It was an issue, and that was water. You're trading one problem for a different one. And typically that trade is an upgrade, You're not throwing the reserve when things are okay. But, like, just know it's not the get-out-of-jail-free card I thought it was before I threw one. Like, coming down on a reserve sucks.
Yeah, we have a local guy that came down on reserve. And
Steve, right?
Yeah, Steve. And he's got good video of it. And when he hits, it sounds painful. I mean, he's grunting and loses all his, knocks the breath out of him. He's older and he's a little frail anyway, but he wasn't walking very well for about a month after that.
Fucking epic.
He was just so sore. He's probably 65.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say he's literally older, and
60.
he was just free flying. But when he hit, like, he was like a crack.
I mean, listener, take that. So he's 65 and he wasn't walking well for a month. If you're 45, that's a week, and it's still a thing. It's, you don't throw a reserve because you're a little nervous,
Yes, because it's not graceful.
That's not an upgrade, if it's just bumpy or something, it's not a get out of jail free card.
And I heard once from an instructor here locally, when I asked him if he's ever had to use his reserve, which he flies with 100% of the time, he says, "No, I haven't. And if I do, I shouldn't be an instructor." Meaning if he gets to that point, then he did something really wrong to need the reserve, I guess was his point.
You mean needing a reserve means you suck?
I mean, you screwed up. You made a bad decision of some sort.
And I guess he's a very conservative pilot, so I don't see him doing much acro and such. So maybe that's just if you're average flyer, then
you don't need one. Is that what you're saying?
That's what he was saying. So
there you go. Oh my God! I've been looking for somebody who needs to tell me I don't need one.
So all this time, Anthony was right.
I know. No.
Well,
there must be some other explanation.
If you look at the spectrum of flying types, you got Woody on one end, and this guy is on the exact opposite end. So he's never going to put himself weather-wise or acro-wise. Right? No, it's not Steve. Okay. In a position that you would need a reserve. So for him, it's all about making good decisions before you get up in the air, and then good decisions while you're just flying straight and level slow.
I can see that. The one thing I'd want to add to it is, like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a reserve, right? And he has one, but like to people listening who might hear that and justify it and say, I'm like this guy, so I'll never throw a reserve. Like, if you're throwing a reserve, things didn't go according to plan. I've heard people say, like, well, I only fly at 50, 75 feet, so I'll never need a reserve. One, you don't, silly head. You go over 50 feet. And two,
now you got me.
Anthony's a silly head.
And two, like, if it's a reserve day, plan A was abandoned. That's not what we're actually doing. So keep that in mind. I would argue the opposite with something like power floats. I don't fly with flotation every flight. There's hardly any lakes here. I'd have to make a special effort to be over one. So I only wear it on lake days.
Gosh, we don't have a body of water within 100 miles.
I know. We've got the Rio Grande right next to us, and there's not a freaking drop of water.
Really? It's dry?
Yeah.
There's a dam up there.
There's 2 reservoirs north of us with dams, and because we're always droughted,
right?
And where we have to rely on how much snow falls in southern Colorado to fill the Rio Grande, and there's not enough. So they hold the water every winter so that they can release it during the summer and spring for the farmers. So they actually just shut the river off. Now it does start flowing south of us into the Gulf of Mexico, but there's a long stretch through here where it just dries up every winter.
No, and it's super interesting to see because, like, some days you'll be flying. It's like one day you could be flying here, and it's just the sand you've been seeing in the bottom of the Rio Grande for months, and then you go flying the next day, and it's like all of a sudden there's a river. It's pretty neat.
I didn't know that. That's like China level environment manipulation.
But I don't think it's definitely not the entire length of the Rio Grande. It's just for this.
Yeah, if you go north of here, there's water in it.
Right. All the time.
Especially north of the reservoirs. Right. So northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, where the Rio Grande is, it always has water in it. And 20 years ago, I've been here. Well, Clint's been here his whole life, but I've been here 25 years. It used to never dry up.
Right.
They didn't employ that same strategy, but now they're just trying to store up more water for more farmers for longer growing season during the droughts.
Right.
Yeah, but if we did fall in it when there was water, it's like 3 feet deep. Maybe,
right.
In most parts, but.
Well, I don't know how much it's moving, but that's something to consider too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because somebody did try to raise that point, like, oh well, it's still water. You should get the power floats if you're planning on foot dragging this. But it is like a depth that you can stand up in. Maybe it'll go to your waist, right?
Unless the flow is dragging you.
Yeah, there's no human who can pull a wing against the water. I don't know
Oh,
if there's
that's a
any
good
animal
point.
that could pull the wing against the water. Like that's just not up to you. My instructor
Right.
had that experience. He was at the beach and he had a failed launch toward the water. So in the end, he had his wing in like not a lot of water, 3 inches.
Right.
But with the waves pulling in and out, he had no control over what happened. He just unclipped himself while getting dragged around and got some friends to help.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. Of course, like if there's a huge storm and water's moving quickly enough, it doesn't have to be very deep to even move a vehicle. You know, like
Right.
it can wash out a vehicle. So God forbid you've got this super lightweight, perfect, glider to just drag your ass. There's no way you could fight it.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about that.
Yep.
So
So, you haven't been flying all that long, but my interest for everyone we talk to is how did you discover PPG?
oh yeah.
Gosh, like 20 years ago when I was buying my first house, my real estate agent had another customer and he was just talking about different, like we wanted a little subdivision sort of cookie cutter thing where our friends would have friends they could walk to. And he's like, oh, I'm helping another guy now. He's the opposite of you. He wants a place he can launch his plane from. And it just like burned into my head like, wow, that'd be cool. But like that guy must be just like much better than me, more successful in every facet of life. To be flying a plane out of his own yard, that's insane. So then we got this house, and one of the things we were looking for, like in our house upgrade, was to add an outdoor component to my life. I'd spent like a decade sort of inside, video games and computers and stuff like that. And I wanted to recharge my solar batteries a bit and just have outside as an option. And the real estate thing kind of burned into my head. I was like, oh, I wonder if I could fly out of this yard, like, is that a thing we could do? And my first thought, not knowing any better, was it would be an ultralight, like one of those trike hand glider type things. And when I started Googling around and searching, I found paramotoring, and it was like, oh, I think this is the way to actually go. And it just went from there.
Super jealous of your front yard landing takeoff zone.
It is. I like it a lot. I'm really lucky to have that. It's a big thing. It's why I get to fly so much, right? I've got some time and it's low effort. There are a lot of days where it seems like I don't know, like it may work. It may be good enough. It may not be good enough. And then 4 o'clock rolls around, the windsock's kind of laying down, and I'm like, I guess I'll just do it. And you walk outside and you launch. And
So speaking of which, actually, so somebody had messaged the Paramotor podcast, and I think they were relatively new, and they were asking about how do you determine what is like a good place to take off? And it's like, well, realistically, I mean, as you progress, you can open up a lot more LZs than you had originally been able to launch from, right?
yeah,
So you can just go to a smaller footprint the better you get,
I
so the
would
less
say,
space you need.
like one of the ways to define it in my head is, can you survive a motor out at any point? Right? That's it. So when you're new and you can't even turn, right? If you're brand new and your motor goes out at 100 feet, you need to be able to glide back down straight, right?
Right.
And that defines a beginner launch site. Can you do that? And then as things get a little longer, it's like, all right, this is an intermediate launch site. If your motor goes out at just the wrong spot, you may have to turn left by 90, and then it's an advanced launch site if you have to maybe make a 180 and land downwind or something like that. Those are the ways that I'd pick it. My house is not ideal. A lot of times, if the motor went out at just the wrong time, you'd be turning about, I don't know, 120 degrees and threading the needle between a fence and a power line.
Well, I imagine it's kind of like, if you have a really small location to launch from, let's say hypothetically it's this park. And then on the outsides of this perimeter, it's trees and for a big distance, What you could do, of course, is like treat it as though it's a thermal and core it up to like maybe 3,000 feet to a height where then, of course, you could glide out. Like you're saying, if you did have that motor out.
I hear you, but I feel like you didn't stress the motor out at any time, right? That motor needs to be able to go out at 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes.
Okay, right.
And you need
So
to
you
be
have
able
to
to
be able to
handle
do it.
that, right?
Right.
So, you know, if Tucker has a motor out in 30 seconds and he's at an altitude, you know, where he can't just glide straight anymore, he's fine. He's Tucker. But a brand new pilot's not fine.
Right.
I actually asked Tucker a couple weeks ago when we had him on the show how many motor outs he's had, and he said a few. So what about you, Woody? How many?
I've had a bunch. I'll grab a number out of the air, like 14, maybe.
Right.
Wow.
3 of my first 5 flights were motor outs. The fuel tank wasn't vented. On a fresh breeze, they put a little tube on the gas cap, and they're supposed to drill a hole in the end. Well, they didn't. So like 15 minutes into my flights, the motor would die. And the instructor was like, well, Woody, you're hitting the kill switch. You suck. And I'm like, God, I don't think I did. And he's like, nope, I saw it with my own eyes. And I'm like, I don't think I did. And then it happened again. And I'm like, man, I really suck. I have to stop doing this. The third time it happened, like I had a visual on my kill switch and I know that I didn't hit it. And that's when we started looking for other causes. But yeah, so that's 3 of them. I think part of the reason I had more motor outs than other people is I turn my motor off so much. I often turn it off to talk to the camera and just get better audio. I often turn it off for acro runs. Like I'll probably do between like 5 and 12 starts on a flight just because I'm turning it off for acro runs, turning it off for a camera, turning it off for whatever. I turn my motor on and off constantly.
Yeah, I heard you say that, or I saw you say that in a post recently that you do so many starts, and I figured it was just acro, but yeah, good point on
I had a motor,
camera,
like,
et cetera.
Air conception. Let's talk about fit and finish, right? There's a spectrum of fit and finish, and I feel like it's correlated to weight as well. Air conception is all the way on the sort of lightweight, but low fit and finish side. The way that they mount their battery, to me, feels almost like you figure it out. You know, like here's a battery, here's some Velcro, best of luck. And me being stupid, I mounted it sideways at one point. Like it just looked like it was right. And the battery slid out to the side. If I wasn't a frequent like motor on and offer, that would have never been a problem. I would have noticed it on landing. But because I turn my motor off in the air all the time, suddenly losing the ability to restart is an issue. Like we sort of fabric-cobbled this strobe into my starting battery, which I really like. It's, you know, simple. But that if you wiggle a wire enough, it breaks. And I guess I didn't like make it strong. Bottom line, my custom harness went bad one time, and that was one of my motor outs. A lot of my motor outs are related to problems that probably wouldn't impact people who didn't turn off their motor so much.
Huh. If you had a pull start, you'd probably have arms like Anthony.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
That's not all from pull starting.
Yeah, no, I've only got one strong arm, if I'm going to be frank.
Yeah.
I start the Scout midair too. It's just not as nice as the button.
Right, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And I do restart the Parajet. And it's, of course, the same Vitarazi Moster 185 Plus that is on your Scout.
I like my Scout, but I think the Parajet might be better in that regard. So the Scout has these plastic spars that go to the hoop.
Right.
And they're plastic, carbon fiber. And because of that, they can't mount a pulley on the carbon fiber spar, which means the pull start comes from sort of behind and under your shoulder. And the motion is like punching someone taller than you left-handed. And that is not my strongest starting motion. Whereas you, I would
trying to imagine this.
Yeah, right? So you get to pull yours down right-handed.
Right.
I punch upward left-handed, and it's not as good a starting motion.
Huh. You went from the Nitro 200, and then I think you pre-ordered the Tornado, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And then you got the Scout like
in the middle.
around the same time.
Yeah. That's I'm trying to remember. So the Nitro used to have an issue where the case would crack. So at about 200 hours, my case cracked. Aviator, what I thought was pretty good customer service, they're like, look, we don't have a case in stock. We will give you the owner's motor. They gave me Travis's
motor, yeah.
And I rocked that thing for like, I don't know, another 50 hours or something. And then I cracked it because it was also the old style. So now I have the new style on it. But when the second one broke, They were like, it's not in stock. We'll ship it from Poland. And I'm like, okay, you do that, but I'm buying another motor in the meantime. So so I got the Scout, and I flew that while I was waiting for the Nitro and Tornado and stuff. Yeah.
No kidding. When I went out to Aviator, I didn't bring my motor, of course. So Todd Scander at Resurgence PPG, he was like, oh, you can fly my motor while you're out here. And he has the Nitro 200. And it was the first time that I had flown the Nitro 200 since my initial training.
Okay.
And it's like, I really don't understand how it could become perhaps a favorite. The vibrations of the Nitro 200, you have the Scout, and there's unquestionably a noticeable difference between the Nitro 200 vibrations and the Scout. I haven't flown a Scout, but I assume based off of the fact that it has a Mostra 185 that it would be quite a bit less, no?
Yeah, so the Nitro 200 vibrates a lot. And there are a lot of pilots like you where that's important to them, right? And it's true. The Nitro, there's a couple true things about the Nitro. It has less power, right? I like to call it a Mostra 150. Like, I think that's how Fahrenheit was invented. We just, went with it. So on my scale, the Nitro is like a Mostra 150, and the Tornado is like a Mostra 220. Like if I would just grab, invent my own measurement system, and it vibrates more, but it really is lighter. And I feel like that might matter less to you. That might matter less to Tucker because you guys are athletic, right? But if we fast forward to 50-year-old Anthony, you might be like, dude, a 42-pound motor sounds awesome.
I'm gonna be broken by that time.
Right?
But I'll be getting whatever space age, lightweight.
Whatever Anthony's next Bo. I don't know what do you call your girlfriend? But like she might really,
she might bite.
She might like a 42-pound motor a lot as well. Like that becomes a really cool thing. If you're not a stud.
Yeah, and top secret, I'm actually getting Leandra a paramotor, which will be revealed upon arrival.
I'm going to guess a Parajet with Adam 80.
You're so good at this. There's the giveaway, folks.
That really was a guess. I didn't know.
No, you nailed it. Going back to like the vibration stuff, it should be still somewhat relevant to you, being that I have always admired your videos and been a fan of the stuff. The downside from a guy who does care about video production, it's really insignificant, but you can hear in your videos the vibrations.
I agree.
More so than the others.
As a pilot, vibration is like my 27th most critical thing. But as a YouTuber, it's high. It almost sounds like you're talking through a fan, or you're doing the Tarzan thing, and it kind of sounds like that. And that shows up in the videos. If you turn it off, of course, it's not a problem. But that's not always a choice. Sometimes it's not a good time to lose altitude. So as a YouTuber, that vibration shows up in the audio, and it matters there. But as a pilot, honestly, I'm pretty honest about all my gear. Vibration is just not something that was critical to me as a pilot. Now, the Tornado is smoother than any of them. But I wonder in my head, if you put a 3-blade prop on the Mostra, if it'd be just as smooth as the Tornado.
Well, isn't that what Kyle does, right? He's got the 3-blade on his Mostra 185, yeah.
Oh, yeah, when I was there, Kyle was on a Tornado.
What's been your take on the Mostra overall?
It's good. I like that it's powerful. There's a little delay on the clutch that I have to adjust to that's not there in the Tornado, and my Nitro's not clutched. And it doesn't have a reputation for being finicky to tune. This isn't a problem that exists across everyone, but in my garage, it's finicky to tune. And
your Mostra is?
Yeah. It all those starting problems, we had to make it richer. And like when I was taught how to adjust the low on a carb, they're like, man, you turn it 1 or 2 minutes, and that's a lot. And if you're not sure if you turned it, then you're making proper adjustment amounts. And then Johnson comes in there, turns it 10 minutes, and fixes it. And it's like, dude, that would have been 3 years of trial and error for me. 1 minute at a time.
Yeah, some people just have this magic ability to put their hands on the motor. It's like, oh, boom, done.
Yeah, Johnson appears to be the carb whisperer. I just needed him to stop by and fix my Scout for me. Right. And now it starts pretty well. Usually on the very first pull. Another thing is the technique on it. I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but I was just grabbing it by the top of the, I don't know what that handle thing, the little pulley. It looks like a brake. I'd grab it by the base of it, not the loop, but the base.
Right.
Like the way they taught me is, you don't grab the ponytail by the end, you grab it by the base.
Who taught you that?
Shane Denherter. I don't know if he wants to be quoted, but there he is.
No, I meant the ponytail part.
So you grab it by the base, and I would just pull it. Now I do like a half pull and then a full pull. And that half pull becomes almost an investment. Like it loads it up, and then the full pull gets a much better crank than I could get by just pulling it. That technique change and the carb tuning, and I start first time mostly now.
Right. For me, when it comes to starting the Moster 185, my science as far as getting it down is, don't over prime it. Initially, I had this thing where I would prime it just a little too much. I would squeeze the bulb once, as the manual actually would state. However, Mitchell Graham was like, no, you're way overdoing it. And it was like just the tiniest little bit. And that seems to be the ticket as far as getting it started really easily. And of course, also having that technique down is super important as far as loading up that, what is it called, Tom? The flash starter or flash?
Right, yeah, flash drive, yeah.
And so now I seem to have better luck. But I can definitely appreciate those who would have an electric start, like Clint. Physically, you're not strong enough to start a pull start, right, Clint?
I'm lucky I can hold the thing. I'm sizing myself up for a trike already.
Yeah.
So Woody, one of the neat things watching your videos is you're not trying to sell anything, you're not sponsoring anything, your unbiased, honest opinion is what people always get. On Facebook, on the Paramotor group, you're always weighing in on wings and stuff like that. So, and you've worked yourself through so much different equipment, both motors and wings. So, you're kind of like an authority, a source that people look towards for advice on, a wing for my flying style or a motor for my flying style. So, let's talk a little bit about wings, because I watched a few of your videos again last night that I've already watched before, just to kind of reorient myself.
Did you do prep for this podcast?
I'm the only one.
No, but actually, so Tom, of course, asking this, Tom and I are both on the same boat where we're both considering different wings. But
the great thing is he's got experience with every wing that you and I are considering. Yeah. So, Anthony, tell him what you want to fly like.
So, yeah, of course, being that I'm on the 26-meter Spider, I feel as though it's a great wing. And
what do you weigh, about 175?
185.
Okay.
Yeah. And just recently, I have built so much trust in this wing. Not stupid trust, not the type of trust where I'm going to do something dumb, but to the point where I can enjoy the experience because I'm not thinking, oh my God, this little bump in the air is going to make me die. I flew trims out all the way from the border of Mexico all the way back to my house with Kylo Glee last week.
Yeah, that's a distance I understand. Carry on.
Right.
It was 1,000 yards.
No.
1,000 miles.
No, it was maybe 10 miles. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's close.
Something like that. And so, but with trims all the way out, and it was starting to get pretty bumpy, but Mitchell Graham told me to exercise this trust building. Bump tolerance. Yeah,
bump
exactly.
Tolerance, sure.
And he's like, just let the trims all the way out. You're on a Spider. Nothing's going to happen. Which nothing did happen, and it was really cool. So I'm wondering, for me, what I would like to get into ultimately is probably not like extreme acro. I like the more slalom, cutting it up down low, sharp turns.
The Mitchell Graham experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck Mitchell Graham, dude.
He is getting fucked.
He is getting fucked. He's gonna put out that old ass fire.
His ass was ready, I promise you. So, if I lived where you guys lived, I might fly like that. And we'll go back to the wings, I promise. But
right.
I watch Mitchell's videos. I know what he does. He's really good at what he does too. And I think to myself, if we switched, right? If Mitchell launched from my yard and I launched from his, then I might be cutting it up 30 feet over the dunes or foot dragging
for sure.
and such. And he, here in the land of trees, might be doing tumbles and tail slides and rhythmic sats and stuff.
Right. Because of the terrain, because you have all those trees and forests, you got to get some altitude, right?
Yeah. And even the farms around here, I try not to spend much time there. I go down, I foot drag, and then I leave because there's a house on that farm. And my impression is like what I assume my acceptance is the first time they see me, it's pretty neat, to have this guy flying around.
Yes.
The second time it's kind of blah, and the third time it's like some guy's running a weed whacker outside their door and they don't like it.
And they come out with a shotgun. Get off
Right?
my land, boy!
So I try not to visit the same farm more than once a month or so, with the exception of one where I know they like me and ask me to land and such. But
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
so yeah, I might be Mitchell-like if I live there. But back to the wings.
Back to wings. What's your progression on wings? Like, what'd you start on briefly?
So my first wing was a Ramaflex, which is like Spider-ish, maybe. And from there, my second wing was a Speedster 2, which would be the next step up. And my third wing was a Muse, which is an A wing. And I got that because I wanted to fly midday. And I sort of just wanted something big and safe and floaty. And
Mitchell does the same
for
thing.
The task. Oh, does he?
Yeah, for sure. He has, he'd have his next wing. The wing Mitchell Graham wants more than anything else right now is a nice juicy dudek universal.
That's funny.
So,
I tried to kite a universal when I was a fairly new pilot, and I'm like, what the flip is this? It's got tip steering, it's got like extra tip steering, it's got the trimmers, it's got like cross lines that you hook into this like V plastic thing.
So I'm on the Universal 1.1
yeah.
with that busyness, but I can handle it because I have
Smarter, perhaps.
bigger brain than all of you fuckers.
The Nucleon XX, I flew that. It was like a similar kind of. I was like you could view it a different way. You could say, look, I've got dedicated tip steering and I've got tip steering worked into the brakes. I look at it and I'm like, oh my god, the pre-flight clip-in on this is much more than I'm used to, and I tend to like the ozones.
I agree with you that of course, the fact is that the ozone riser system is generally a lot more simple and less busy than the dudek. However, when I flew Kyle's 22-meter Hadron XX this weekend, in my mind, I had envisioned that this riser system would be way more chaotic.
Yeah, that one has the flaps that kill you if you do them wrong.
It didn't feel discouraging from actually considering the Hadron XX is a future wing, if not my next wing.
In general, I like the complicated risers in the air, but not on the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even on mine, Anthony, when you flew it, you're like, do I hold 1A or 2As?
Well, yeah, because it's different.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on.
And they're different colors. I think it's like this whole
I wish that
probably
was standardized,
scheme.
right? A's tend to be red a lot, and then after that,
start on ozone and you'll fly ozone forever, because if you try a dudek, you'll kill yourself because the A's are like red on a dudek, right? Or wait.
Yeah, they are.
Are they
Yeah.
red or
And then
are they
on
blue
an ozone, they're blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, it's this whole like go to our competitor dudek and we will kill you. Like this.
My acro wing is great. On the inner A's, it's like hold these to launch, and on the outer A's, it's like pull these for big ears. There's words on it. I'm like, this is great.
Paramotoring for dummies.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, so progression. One of the big things that they told me that I really appreciate is not to skip steps. So like if you suck at wingovers on your Spider, and then you go hop on a Carve or Viper or Freerider or Warp and learn wingovers, then you will always suck. Right? You don't know how to do wingovers. Your wing does.
You increase your suck probably.
and when you flip on over to that universal, you take these giant tip collapses, and you only know how to do wingovers on the easiest things. So don't skip any steps. And I think I took more steps than most people. So I went from the Ramaflex to the Speedster, back to the Muse, which covers like ABC. And then I did the Progress. The Progress kind of fits between the Speedster and the slalom wings. And then I did a slalom wing. So there were, 5 different wing levels categories in there on my way. Whereas some guys just go from, 0 to 100. The Colorado and the Speedster, they're all in the same class, right? If I were to rank them in terms of agility, it'd probably go Sirocco, Nuke, and then Colorado. The Colorado's light, like the Sirocco can be, which makes it easy to launch. The Nuke, I thought, it took a little effort to get that thing cooking. It's not bad. It's maybe medium in terms of like getting that thing to inflate and launch. Whereas the other two are on the easy side, the Sirocco and the Colorado. And then after that, it depends on the mission. The Speedster and I were buds. Like I wore one out. And
Tom's not interested in acro. I don't.
The Speedster sounds like it's my speed. Actually.
Oh, see what you did there.
Man, I didn't. I'm slow as a mark.
The Speedster and the Sirocco are pretty identical. No?
They are
Yeah.
identical. The difference is
Yeah.
the material. So one's the
Right.
lightweight version of the other. Ozone does that all the time. They make a wing and it's nice, but it's heavy. And then a year later, they release the light version of it.
So would you say before you change wings, you make sure you can do basically every maneuver
All the things you want to do, right? You should
on
know how
that
to-
wing?
Yeah, I would. And then you can progress to the next one.
So do you progress and downsize at the same time?
Yeah, I like as a rule of thumb, I would say that when you change a category of wings, you can drop 2 meters. So if you're on like a 26 meter Spider, then a 24 meter Sirocco would give you the same experience.
But you're not
Same
looking for the
lift.
same
Well,
experience.
I wish I phrased it better. The same amount of lift, right? So
Right.
it'll be more agile and it'll have the same amount of lift. And then if you
Yeah.
were to go to like a 20 meter free ride, might have the lift of a 26 meter Spider.
But this is like a good rule of thumb. This isn't necessarily.
These are from Woody's butt, but yeah, they're about right.
The truth is I'm the best paramotor pilot in the world.
Undoubtedly. 4 years, I heard.
Yeah, 4 years you saw that. The average person may not progress this rapidly. And so maybe downsizing 2 meters every time you get a more advanced wing, maybe that is a good rule of thumb. But for me,
It could be
I
4
have
for a guy
demoed.
like you. And I wouldn't argue against that. You're athletic. Like, all jokes aside, you're athletic and you're younger. And, Tucker is too.
Can we shut Anthony's earphones off for a little bit? Or no, I was just gonna jump in and he tried out my wing and that fucker launched it perfectly, like never touched it before. And I seen him try out all these other wings. I've never seen him blow a launch other than
The warp.
The warp. But no, I mean it is actually impressive to see you. I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good for never
Fucking A,
being.
Clint.
So,
I've
you-
never heard you compliment me before.
Yeah,
We're gonna edit that-
It's
edit
been
it-
well
edit that out.
established.
And you know,
We
you
don't
said
like
he
him.
lost his credibility until once he credited me.
Yeah, I said, man, you made this nice video about how to make videos, and then you lost all credibility at 4 minutes when you compliment Anthony. But then he saved himself when he
Redeemed.
called him a piece of human filth.
Yeah, so let's say stability and agility are trade-offs of each other. The ranking would go Speedster, Nuke, Colorado in terms of stability, medium, and then agility.
That's perfect info, man. That's
Stability-
exactly what we're looking for.
As far as like the
Yeah, like how much I trust it. Opposite of oscillating, yeah. If you're flying, say, midday and the bumps are hitting one side of the wing, the Speedster will be the first one, or the Sirocco 2, to straighten it out, and the Colorado will be the third one.
right. So for me, the downside of that is I love to bank. I want to turn sharp.
Mhm.
I just like to have the feeling as if I'm on rails. Like I like to have that extreme precision when I'm on it. And right now on the 26 meter Spider, perhaps it's because it's a 26 meter Spider and I don't really have the weight to justify having a wing so big.
What's your launch altitude?
4,000 feet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty. I've
we're
literally
up there.
never launched that high, and you do it all the time. So that would make you go a little bigger.
The second wing I really flew for a while was the 16 meter Snake.
Mm.
I get it. It's a more advanced wing, obviously, and in a small size. However, as crazy as this sounds, I swear I felt safer on a more advanced wing because of the flying style that I do, if that makes sense. I'm not going to change my flying style. It's what I seek. It's what I find pleasure in when I fly paramotors. So on the 16 meter Snake, now it starts to make sense that if I am going to fly that way, that you would have that a lot more agility or precision in the flying to be able to enjoy it that way. But of course, as Mitchell will describe, and perhaps you can elaborate on that, the downside to a more advanced wing is if something does fuck up.
Yep, that's exactly it. There's so everything's faster, right? That's one piece of it.
For sure.
Everything's faster. So if you mess up foot dragging a universal into the wind and everything's cool, you do it on a slalom wing, and you better be ready for that transition to running. Wing overs, you pull it 6 inches and you can get upside down. Literally 6 inches is all you need to get upside down with a little weight shift and swing management.
Right.
Then So these things are going to happen faster. Everything's easier too. I think foot dragging on the slalom wings is easier because that flare authority pops you up. If you're like me foot dragging, then every once in a while there's a save, right? And when you have that extra flare authority, boom, it's there. You can pop up 6 feet if you need to.
Sometimes when I'm coming into land on my 26 meter spider, sometimes there's almost no flare. Like it's like I'm coming in perfectly into the wind, and whatever the composition of the air is that day, for whatever reason, the flare just is not there. But then I get onto something like the Hadron XX, and I come into land same day, same conditions, and it's like, boom, there's a lot of flare. Now I can actually ride out this landing, and it just is. It
makes the landing easier in some ways, but you do come in at like 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. And so if you're gonna mess it up, if you're gonna plow into the ground, or if you're still looking at your feet, and things happen so fast, then it's not the right wing.
So that being said, it's faster, right? The Hadron XX is a faster wing, just like the 16-meter Snake is a faster wing. All these wings are faster. You initially come in hotter. However, so the interesting thing is if you can really work that flare, if you can really drag it across the ground, you'll still probably come in like running. Yeah. However, the impact is the energy is going
There's no vertical
vertically.
Speed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's only.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with this spider, and when there's no flare, those are my roughest landings. It's
more drop.
There is. It's more of a downward dropping landing that I don't like.
I agree with all that, but I'm just saying, so you're talking about you. Picture you as a newer guy who's 52 years old and maybe a little frightened of this landing.
Tom raised his hand.
If you're newer, you're over 50, you're frightened of this landing, then I'd much rather see that guy on a spider than a Hadron barreling in at 30 miles an hour, where I expect him to ski on his feet and manage this energy until it's gone.
Right. I guess the downside would be if you put in the wrong inputs as you're flaring, boom, you pop yourself up and down you come like harder.
Saw a video of a guy launching a free ride, right? So this is on launch. The wing didn't come up just right. It was a little to the side. So he pulled some brake to fix it like he always does, but he was new to the free ride. So all of a sudden, the 4-inch input he put into his old wing was ridiculous on the free ride. It slams into the ground. He ends up face planting, and it was yucky because you need to be sensitive on the inputs on the slalom wings. If I had a big takeaway, it'd be not to skip steps. You're on a spider and you're looking to carve up the ground. I'd much rather see you on like a Sirocco Nuke, Colorado than straight to a Snake.
What's your take on full stalls and all that can go wrong there for someone new to full stalls? I was watching a video on you yesterday, again, doing research like Tom, trying to be like Tom. But it was you and Mark Honeycutt. You took off from a different field, and you mentioned your hard deck of 1,000 feet. But you ripped a full stall, and then it kind of comes out, and then it's like a 50% frontal collapse. After it looked like it was already deflated, and that kind of weirded me out because I kind of want to try one. But
so the big thing on a full stall is that if people don't know, you take both brakes, you bury it down to your butt, you get into a full stall. When you first full stall, you're flying forward, so your body goes forward and your wing gets behind you because now it's just like loose cloth. You drop down and then the pendulum goes the other way. You have to manage that pendulum. And then when you go back into the flying configuration, your wing surges forward. It can surge so forward that it folds under itself, a frontal. And in the worst case scenario, you hit it. Something similar to that happened to me in an SIV. It was actually a helico attempt. And I got hooked on the lines and I was falling and I thought I was going to need a reserve. But the big risk in the full stall is not managing the exit well. And while you're in the full stall, it's very tricky and delicate to handle and you can get riser twist. So I didn't do full stalls on my own until after 3 SIVs.
Wow.
I felt like I was really crushing it in SIV. I'd go into a full stall, I could steer left and right while stalling and then get out. And since then, I've probably done about 130 more, and I'm still getting better. It's a lot to manage, I think.
Okay.
But I wouldn't suggest most people just go in a motor over land and give it a go. I think Mitch has a friend that did, and he sucked. He crashed all the way to the ground, right? It's on video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But they weren't even trying to stall. He was just doing pitch control, I believe, on that.
Yeah. That's one of the things you do before you learn to full stall.
Right.
But,
So don't do it, Clint, is what you're saying.
do it in SIV over
No,
water.
so
Yeah.
and I want to do that, but again, I come from the skydiving world, and I've messed with a parachute. One of my favorite things to do is jumping out at 14,000 feet and just opening right away and flying around. That's part of the reason I got into powered paragliding.
That makes sense. You do that part the whole way.
Yeah, exactly. I heard you say, I guess the other day, talking about helicopters, and there's a maneuver we can do on a parachute where you basically stall it kind of with the rear risers, and right before you let up and you get it spinning. We call it a helicopter, and you're on your back basically, and it's spinning right above you. It's kind of crazy.
I did a couple helico attempts in training, maybe like 7, and they all sucked. So like in training, this is SIV. I'm like, all right, this one I'm good enough to take home. This one has to stay over water. And helicos stay over water, man. I'm not ready.
Nice. You just got a boat, right?
Yes.
Or part of a boat?
That exaggerates my importance a little bit. I'm one of 15 people who went in on a boat.
You are a boat captain.
So do all 15 fly, or just some
Yeah,
of you
that's
all?
the idea. So I was thinking about this. I think the ideal amount of people to show up on a weekend is probably like 7 to 9, right? Like you sort of need 2 in the boat. You need a guy on land who's running the tow rope back up to the pilot. And like, it's not as if you want to show up with 2 guys and you just rip it all day. Like that would suck. You'd have to run your own lineup and clip in and everything. But I'm guessing if you have 15 owners, you probably get like 7 to 10 on any given weekend. And it's about the right amount.
It seems like you'd be hard pressed to find that many pilots in one little area.
Yeah, they come from it's mostly North Carolina. There's some in South Carolina too. And yeah, we just, I don't know. There's a decent little community here.
You gonna go skiing on the lake with it when you're not flying with it?
Dude, yeah.
From the winch, 3,000 feet behind the boat.
Doing my research, I started like watching boat videos and looking at boat ads, and now YouTube thinks I'm a boater, and I'm just being inundated. Like, this is a tube that I could really use.
That's badass.
Me and you share something in common. We both have broken an ankle.
yeah.
Trying to PG.
It's an exclusive club.
And both of them seem to be, you saw yours, it's kind of freak. It's not something that you'd expect that would break an ankle. We broke our ankle pretty similar. If you look at our x-rays, they're not that far off. You listen to your doctors. My doctor gave me bad advice and told me, do whatever you can stand.
Ooh.
And so my recovery has taken quite some time, whereas you look like you're 100% now, right? You're back to better
it's
than
about,
ever, right?
I don't think about it. Every once in a while, like, for example, if I carry something heavy up a ladder, it's not a problem. I'm just like aware of it. Whereas I feel like 100%, you just forget about it. I forget which ankle it is. I was paragliding, inflating in high winds. I kind of got plucked off the ground and dropped, and my toe pointed towards my butt. Follow their instructions. And if they give you little exercises that seem like bullshit, they're not. Do them. Those tiny stabilizing muscles you don't think about are actually important. And I just followed his instructions and my doctor's instructions to a T, and it worked out super well.
Yeah, I wish I would have got that advice.
It's why I made a video. It's why every so often
right.
other people get hurt, and I send them like that timestamp. Like, all right, dude, this is how you get better. I gave a list of topics to Anthony because I was just brainstorming. And one of them was fear injury.
No, that was the next thing I was going to ask you about, because that gets back to Ross's accident in the power lines.
So when I broke my own leg, that didn't discourage me at all. I spent the next 2 months in bed watching acro videos, dreaming of a rematch of those exact conditions. That's what I wanted more than anything else. I just, get me back in, coach. I can take that guy. And then when I got able to walk and do my thing, I'm out there kiting. I have this little kiting wing. It's 14 meters. So whenever the winds are like 43 mile an hour gusts, I'm in my yard just wrestling that bear to get good because I wanted a rematch. Didn't scare me at all to break my leg. But Ross, people don't know, Ross is a friend of mine, and he hit a power line. And dude, that messed up my head a lot. A lot of times when I see someone get injured, I immediately rationalize how that could never happen to me. Maybe I'm an ace pilot, or maybe I just don't do what that guy does.
Right.
When Ross hit that power line, it was like, dude, that could happen to anybody. I don't know how to describe the power line was in the wrong spot, right? But You know where power lines are. They're kind of next to roads, and they connect roads to houses usually in a short path, right? Like, this one wasn't next to the road. It was kind of across the farm. In my area, I'm the most experienced pilot, and sometimes I fight the tendency for me to mother hen everybody else. You know, oh, you're not pointing quite into the wind on launch. You're doing this wrong, or you should be doing that. Like, I don't want to be that guy. And when we were descending into this place, I did a mid-height pass, and I observed that power line. I knew it was there. But I didn't want to be like a domineering jerk-off, for lack of a better term, by like telling Ross that I thought he was making mistakes or that he should do better or something like that. And in my heart, I feel like I allowed him to hit that line. Ross is an experienced pilot, and it would seem almost insulting to tell him how to fly in my head. And we talked about it afterwards, and he said that if a situation like that comes up again, I should tell him.
That would be my takeaway. Everyone tell Clint if there's a power line, please. Be a mother hen.
He was pretty hurt. He had to deal with that for a while. We took him to a couple of doctors. He couldn't like cook or anything. Like, he could barely move. So he stayed in our guest house. My wife, who's a saint, you know, made his meals and stuff, and I delivered. And that lasted, I don't know, maybe half a week or so before he could start walking and take care of himself. And that, like, caring for him messed up my head like some extra. Like, it really puts the consequences of things going wrong front and center.
So fast forward to today, he's 100% again, right?
Yeah, he's okay now.
Yeah, I saw him. What was it? This last week or whatever it was, and I was at Aviator. He was there too.
About your fear injury, you 100% past that also?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm still more scared than maybe people think I am. I'm pretty honest about it in my videos, but like when I do my wingovers, don't scare me, or sats. I'm pretty cool with those, but the stalls do. And I heard Mitchell describe stalls well.
Kicking off a chair.
He's like, imagine you're on a cliff in a chair leaning back, and then you're on that, and then someone pushes you the rest of the way with their foot.
Chair out from under you.
Yeah, and it just pushes you backwards off the cliff. That's what a full stall is like. It's
real, yeah.
It's spooky, dude. Yeah, like I'm not at a point where I go into a tail slide and it doesn't raise my pulse. But there are people who are, and that's where I'm targeting.
Are we going to get the infinite out of you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't even think infinites are that hard. I'm doing rhythmic sats now, so it's like an infinite on a 45-degree angle. And, just get a wing that shoots a little more, and I could pull it the rest of the way. I just want to be so good at it that I don't mess it up. Like, the thing about aviation, like, if you're good enough that you can hit it 9 times out of 10, you're not good enough.
Yeah, no kidding. Like that 10th time is a gift wrap.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I only die 1 in 10 times. so we're going to advance more slowly into this thing.
That's still an A, right? 90%?
No, in aviation. That's a whole different score. You've got to really be on top of your game for this stuff.
So what do you, on the frequency of your PPG videos, have you noticed lately that they're it's slowed down a bit?
It's Anthony, PC Human Filth, raised the game. Makes me not want to make videos.
We all recognize, good quality, and Anthony certainly is at the top of the game there. But for most of us, it's just we want to see more, and you're one of the better ones that we all get to look at. And so we're always looking for the next one, hoping for it. But your frequency has trimmed off a bit lately. Do you think you'll ramp it back up anytime soon?
I do. Part of the reason, like I said, I just don't want to make bad videos. And another part of it is that my actual flying is really repetitive. And I don't think they're always good videos. Like I made a video called The State of My Acro Progression. I think something like that. And I sort of showed where I am in learning tail slides and tumbles. And I could make that same video now and say, look, I'm 3% better. But I don't think people want to see it. Or I could be like, hey, look, here I am, launching from my yard for the 800th time, going to the sod farm, foot dragging. I need to have something to say or something new that I'm doing, in my opinion, to make a better video.
For your videos, it's educational. Like, I mean, there really is a lot to be learned, whether even outside of paramotoring or flying in general. There's information to be learned. If somebody goes to learn something from my channel, they're fucking need some help.
Well, the good thing about Woody's videos is your storytelling. I think that's what keeps bringing people back is you're always telling stories, whether it's PPG related or not. They're all interesting, and they do relate back to something everybody relates to. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you've gained so much in popularity. And then, I think people live vicariously through you also when you're doing all this acro. People are like, I'd love to experience that, but I'm not willing to take on the risk to do it. So,
but you were critical in one of the videos you saw because, I just tend to talk so much and blah, blah, blah. But it is informative and educational, and that's what sets yours apart than from Anthony, which is just like a bunch of effects and shit talking.
But I also try to target people who maybe don't even paramotor, right? Like I have a lot of subscribers from before paramotoring. And if like I have a wing review coming up and I worry that like, I'm pretty sure 90% of my audience isn't about a wing review, that because they're not all paramotor pilots.
So this year, you tend to stay East Coast area. Any plans ever for you to? I mean, you have been out west. You took. That's where you broke your ankle. But any plans to do anything like that?
El Paso?
Hypothetically, I don't have plans for it. I sometimes think about it. I might go to the endless foot drag. That's I usually do. Last year I did free flight in Oklahoma and then the foot drag in Kansas. So that would be closer to you guys. I know there's a lot of big country out there.
We'll meet you halfway. We'll do a road trip.
But my point really is just getting out here and flying different scenery, different air. The Southwest or the Intermountain West, where it's just a totally different game.
Yeah, it'd be a big learning experience for me too. The thing is, my family quite likes me, and it's like a big withdrawal from the emotional bank account when I leave.
For sure.
So along those same lines, bucket list flying areas, or I guess goals.
Or can you vicariously live through Tucker? Is that good enough?
If I had a bucket list of flying areas, it'd probably be a big free flight. I want to go to one of those areas where even average pilots can go 200 kilometers and send it.
What's that place called? Where you can have these really extended flights. A lot of the world records were set there. Somewhere mid-Texas. And then it's just like where the clouds line up so that you just have thermal after thermal after thermal.
Really?
It's the hill country, or the escarpment is what they call it. It's where the coastal plains of the Gulf of Mexico move into the hill country.
Right, yeah.
Does anyone else hear this guy volunteering as a tour guide? That's what I'm hearing.
No.
No, what he say?
I grew up there actually, but I've never flown there. So I'm pretty ignorant.
Out west, I want to do Slide Mountain. That's the place where I broke my ankle. I need a rematch. Score's not settled there. But yeah, oftentimes, by day 2 or 3, I'm gone. My wife is like, whatever, sending me news reports of some murder 6 miles away, and Colin's sad or something like that. I have a special needs kid, so that I just try not to leave too much.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, Woody. I mean, we appreciate it. It was great information.
What I would hope to do with the podcast is to be able to have individuals like you and Kyle, and hopefully you, Kyle, me, Tucker, and all do it all at once in a future episode.
That'd be fun. I wonder how that'd go, right? Like,
right.
Kyle is an alpha talker. And Tucker's not. So
Tucker was here this whole time, but nothing was. It's like, this is Tucker. And that's all you get out of him the entire podcast.
You should have that as like a soundboard.
Biggest takeaway is don't do a full stall today.
No. Do it over water. Get a bunch.
Don't skip any steps, Anthony.
Yeah. Yeah, Anthony.
The biggest takeaway.
There was a time when they identified me as like most likely to die. But I was lucky in that I was on YouTube, and it opened up doors for mentors to me, right? Guys like Shane Denherter, the Aviator PPG boys. They gave me attention and made sure that I learned the right way. There were other guys who would have sold me that snake and not put me on the right path. I feel like you're in the same position, right? I've watched some of your low acro and identify you, Anthony, as someone likely to die. But you're also in the community and able to tap into some mentors. So I'd like to see you do that.
Any closing thoughts, anybody? Can somebody give me some fucking closing thoughts?
Well, man, after what he just said, I think we should end with a serenity prayer, maybe. If you're going to die.
Yes.
All right. Well, there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Thanks again for your time, Woody. It's been great.
Yeah, Woody, that was more of what we get, online in the YouTube videos. We just unbiased, you're not really beholden to any one organization or company or sponsor or anything like that. You just get wide open, honest feedback from you, and that was real appreciated. I'm sure everybody's going to love hearing what you had to say on wings and motors and stuff like that. So thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Thank you a bunch for doing this, and we'll do it again very soon.
Thank you. My pleasure, man.